And now, we return to the trenches of Tim Pool versus Emma Vigeland.
That's a different question.
Because we need filibuster reform. So I'm not really interested in process. I'm interested in outcomes as we get back to, again, the differences that we clearly have here. I don't really care who imposes the right to abortion in this country. I just care that we have a right to abortion in this country, and we don't.
Well, right. Yeah, I think at first when Roe v. Wade was overturned, I thought that it was probably good it would go to legislation because the Supreme Court arbitrarily setting law is probably dangerous. But however, since then, I've looked at it and said it's a 14th Amendment question, the right to life. And, you know, looking back on that now and understanding Roe v. Wade actually was a pretty good decision. I think now at this point, you'd need some kind of codification. I don't know how the Supreme Court's going to go back on it, but that's a political conversation, not a personal perspective on abortion. So my view is pre-viability, it's individual discretion. Post-viability, it's probably going to require some kind of, depending on the circumstances.
Where do you draw the line of viability?
Can the baby survive on its own?
Okay. Well, 90% of abortions happen in the first trimester, which is the first 12 weeks.
Yeah.
99% happen in the first 20 weeks. The rest that happen, the 1% that you're talking about, which is overrepresented constantly for fear-mongering purposes, is the 1% that happen when the life of the mother is in danger or there's a issue with the fetus.
No,
no
very
question.
nice.
There's no need to
see a
parse
Beyonce
and draw
words.
arbitrary lines, because what that does is it essentially, especially with rape and incest exemptions, which you speak about, it makes it seem like...
I'm not in favor of incest exemptions.
Okay, the one that we spoke about earlier, okay? I'm not even speaking about your specific opinion about this. I'm talking generally about the notions of abortion. You can't have rape and incest exempt.
Man, dude, he really jumped to that incest exemption really fast. Like that was a really, he had that one prepared. Okay, he's like, look, I don't want those incestors to be able to abort their babies. What did Tim Pool just say? He said he didn't want an exemption for incest. Here, well,
decision. I think now at this point, you'd need some kind of codification. I don't know how the Supreme Court's going to go back on it, but that's a political conversation, not a personal perspective on abortion. So my view is pre-viability, it's individual discretion. Post-viability, it's probably going to require some kind of, depending on the circumstances.
Where do you draw the line of viability?
Can the baby survive on its own?
Okay, well, 90% of abortions happen in the first trimester, which is the first 12 weeks.
Yeah.
99% happen in the first 20 weeks. The rest that happen, the 1% that you're talking about, which is overrepresented constantly for fear-mongering purposes, is the 1% that happen when the life of the mother is in danger or there's a issue with the fetus.
Well, there's no question.
So there's no need to parse and draw arbitrary lines, because what that does is it essentially, especially with rape and incest exemptions, which you speak about, it makes it seem like...
I'm not in favor of incest exemptions.
Okay, the one that we spoke about earlier.
No, I'm not in favor of incest exemptions. You know what? I feel like Tim Pool's audience deserves to have to listen to Tim Pool talk for an hour about why he thinks people who are victims of incest should be forced to carry their babies.
Okay, I'm not even speaking about your specific opinion about this. I'm talking generally about the notions of abortion. You can't have rape and incest exemptions because it takes so long to prove those cases that it would completely nullify the need for an abortion, because as the pregnancy is going along, you would be unable to perform the abortion in the time that it takes to prove that kind of stuff. So when that stuff is put into legislation, what it does is it waters down and makes the public seem like, oh, we're not so barbaric. That's why we should not be intervening in what doctors and patients are doing. I want people to be empowered over their own health care. Same thing with trans kids.
So you disagree with Roe v. Wade?
Same thing with abortion. Sorry?
Do you disagree with Roe v. Wade in that regard?
Well, no. I want there to be an abortion.
Would you prefer Roe v. Wade stood?
Of course.
So then you would be against abortion after a certain amount of time?
I mean, Roe v. Wade essentially created the viability standard, right?
So then you have a 14th Amendment question, whereas
No,
you would need some kind of government intervention post viability.
Yeah, I believe that doctors should be able to make these determinations, and it should not be. We should have a right to an abortion broadly, and doctors
I
can make a
think-
decision.
To be clear,
real quick, I think you're in favor of the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
No, I'm not, because I
But-
would
but-
never
but
want
look.
to overturn something to go backwards and then
No,
bring
but
it up to
listen.
the legislature where we have
Be-
crazies and
because of
Republican
the
nut
over-
jobs in the Senate,
sure, listen.
and there's a filibuster that doesn't provide us with the
Because of-
ability to codify it.
Because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, you now have states like Colorado removing restrictions.
No. This isn't accurate. So Roe versus Wade protected at a constitutional
No,
level
no.
up to the second trimester for elective abortions, and then
Correct.
afterwards it was
It's a-
up to the states. So like,
Okay, so it's even. It's not
so
even-
like
right.
Colorado could have extended this prior to. In fact, Andrew Cuomo
Okay, I stand corrected.
did this before. So like, just to clarify that.
Okay, never mind. I stand
Tim
corrected.
so
I
much
thought that
wants
it
to go
was,
past this.
because I remember reading, what was the guy's name? He wrote about 14th Amendment kicks in upon viability, and then you have a constitutional right to life and all of these things, and there's questions
Now,
around that.
Colorado may have passed that law in response to Roe versus Wade, but they weren't prohibited from doing so before. It's because Roe versus Wade says at this point the states have no
Interesting.
issue. It's a constitutional
Interesting.
issue.
You'll
And
never
then
be back
third
again.
trimester, which is why Roe versus Wade constitutionally is a ridiculous decision. They're like, it's a states' rights issue because the Constitution obviously delegates the trimesters in the 57th Amendment somewhere.
And again, Tim, like the reality is I don't like, you've been perfectly nice to me here. I don't really care about you personally. I care when you say things that are harmful and
Like what?
wrong, like the hoax statement about
That wasn't wrong. That was an opinion.
It was wrong.
It's
It
not,
was
though.
completely factually inaccurate.
It's an opinion, but it was right though. I don't think Tim Pool knows what an opinion and a fact are, Chad.
It's not factually
You
accurate.
you called it a hoax because you know that your audience is going to feed into it, and then you parse it later so you have plausible
Well, that's your opinion,
deniability
but
about it.
But specifically, what I said was,
Yeah.
and we talk about it in depth. I think the issue is just you don't watch the show. To be fair, I don't watch Majority Report. But if like I'm not gonna come out here and be like, you said this one time, this one thing. I've not watched the show, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about. But I said, yeah, the idea that you would take a tragic circumstance like this and then create a political story, put it out to the super PACs to try and change laws, that's a hoax.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
How about the fact that you called the
The grooming event.
shooter in the neo-Nazi Texas shooter who watched your program, you called that a false flag? And
Because you don't even know anything about that story.
I do.
It was four clips of the episode, and you can see in the images. He wasn't
Get
even
his
subscribed
ass,
to the channel.
Emma.
Yeah, but he watched your show.
No, he
he's-
didn't. He watched one guy.
Yeah, have you ever went to those time codes? He was highlighting specific, and I won't name the guest from the guest.
But
like,
he
I've
did
seen
watch
that.
your show.
Like
Okay,
this is
so
like
you're saying
a
he watched an
nasty
episode?
smear.
Sure, but do you
Oh,
understand
come
why?
on.
And he posted
That
about
one.
it.
Who was that one guy who
why
watched
do you
Majority
think-
Report and then commented on what Sam did?
Why do you think that? But no, this was a neo-Nazi. Why do you think your content appeals to neo-Nazis?
Are you kidding me right now?
No, I'm just wondering why you think that.
Have you
Oh,
ever-
Right,
he's
I'm gonna
so
do
fucking
something I don't
mad.
normally do, but that
He's
was
so
an egregious
fucking
overline
mad.
statement where I don't know if you are intentionally trying to just
Oh, hey Jay Xander. Emma just pushed his button so good. He's molding right now, chat.
generate clips that are nonsensical, or you're just really that stupid.
Oh man.
The idea that because a
I was just like, oh man, I really hit a button there.
Nazi watched your show appeals to Nazis, is like, look, if you want to have a real conversation, we have a real conversation. If you want to come up here and do exactly what the majority,
though,
you want to do what the Majority
If you-
Report does, and exactly why Sam isn't welcome on my and many other shows, feel free to do it, and I'm willing to have you on here. Did you know that like, I don't know about you specifically, but this is exactly why people don't like your show. Okay.
I think people like our show.
Yeah, maybe ask why some of these higher profile personalities and networks won't have Sam on anymore. And he can
They're afraid of
cry.
him.
Oh, they're afraid of him. How about it's because you just claimed that my show appeals to Nazis, which it
He
clearly
watched your
doesn't.
show.
Because this show is predominantly like moderate libertarian leaning types.
No, you
but you
say
don't even
that,
watch
and
it.
that you.
Ah, yes. I'm familiar with those. In my early days of streaming, I met many moderate conservatives who would come on to debate me. I know exactly the kind you mean, Tim. Exactly the kind.
say that because you're trying to draw a line and make the really far right people that watch your show feel like their positions are a little bit more close to the mainstream than they actually are.
Okay, let's say for
So
a moment.
you called it a false flag, and then when you were proven wrong the next day,
Called
you
what a
said
false
you thought
flag?
it was funny.
Called what a false flag?
You called the claims that the neo-Nazi shooter watched your show a false flag.
I don't know if I said that. That sounds awfully specific.
I don't have the exact quote in front of me, Tim. But
So you don't know
was...
what I said? Where did
yes,
you hear
I do.
that?
I would listen to you.
Oh,
Did you say
he's
something
so
like
mad,
it sounds like
dude.
I said it sounds like a psyop to have this profile appear one day after the shooting where it's got like a bunch of screenshots on it or something?
Hey, Solazar.
Sure.
It really does sound to me like someone told you to say things and you don't know what you're referencing.
I'm not shocked that that is the only way that you're going to try to react to this.
Oh, God. Oh, dude. Yo, Emma is like Tim Pool's kryptonite. She's cool as a cucumber, dog. Just she had already, like, you know, this is like that scene in one of those movies where, like, or one of those anime. How can you harm me? You're already dead. I foresaw everything you would do. You know, like, that's it. That's Emma right now.
To react to what? Like, okay, no, this is fairly obvious. So I'm willing to bet Sam was like, "Hey, ask him about this and say these exact
No, I
things."
came up with. I mean,
Come up with original thoughts.
Yo, the conspiracy brains scrabbling in real time, dude. Tim Pool can't possibly conceive of a way in which Emma is this smart and like irritating to him. So of course Sam is like feeding her lines. Where's the wire, Emma? Where's the wire?
Wait, can
it
can
is
I
my
ask-
original thought.
So
No,
it's-
it isn't.
It's
Some guy posts a screenshot of one episode of a show he's not subscribed to, and you think that's an attack vector for something political, but it's a personal snipe that has no bearing on any of the arguments we've made the entire show.
I disagree.
Yeah,
You disagree with what? With what? Elaborate.
I disagree that it has no
so
bearing
mad.
on what you've said throughout your entire
Dude.
show.
Like what? What did I say?
This is
Come
what,
on, come
this
on, come
was
on.
the claim
Let's
that you
hear
made.
it. Let's hear it.
I believe that your program appeals to a right-wing audience, and there's a reason that the neo-Nazi shooter watched your program,
And how do you know he watched the program?
because he posted about it.
What did he post?
Tim,
What did he post?
he posted parts of an interview that you did.
No, he didn't. You're wrong.
He had 4 screenshots on his phone from
You
the
don't
same
even know what
episode.
you're talking about, and all you can do is laugh and
No,
say,
it's because you get
some
specific
guy-
to obscure
some
the fact.
guy
You called it
posted
a
one thing one time, and that's the only argument you have.
Did you go to the time codes that were in that episode? Because I did. I ran this down, and one of them was a clip of Elijah Schaefer, and like weirdly for this like neo-Nazi Hispanic shooter, he like it's Elijah saying that we shouldn't be
He had a
emphasizing
swastika
race
tattoo.
specifically. No, he's a neo-Nazi Hispanic shooter.
Right, but Tim called it a false flag and then corrected himself the next day and then said he thought it was funny after a mass shooting.
I think that
I mean, people
someone
were calling
told you
him.
to say this, and you don't actually know what you're talking about.
I think that it's not shocking that you think that based on my gender.
Okay, you're not saying anything.
But like I screen grab because I do YouTube clips, so I will screen grab a time code so I know where to go
I think it's not shocking that you think that based on my gender.
later. So like when I saw that, I knew, or I had a feeling, because obviously he's dead. So, or was he captured or was he killed?
I think he was killed.
Yeah, so he's dead, so he can't tell us. But like I think people screenshot, because this is why I do it, and you can find them in my phone, moments in things so that they can go back and reference that clip. And I ran down both of those time codes. Neither
look,
one.
I get it, but look, man, this is the majority report. This
Yeah, but
why,
it is a
he's
nasty
so
smear.
mad,
like you're
dude.
doing it on purpose.
and it's
without running
not a
down the
political
context.
statement. It's not a political
it's a
argument.
fact.
You're like, he
Argues
watched
nothing.
an episode of her show. I'm sorry, of his show. Like that's
There was that one guy who posted Sam Cedar a whole bunch. Remember the guy who killed all those people at the bar in Ohio?
I don't remember that case
Why?
specifically.
Why did that guy?
I think Tiv is making that up, chat. I pay attention to this stuff pretty closely. I'm pretty sure if some guy, before shooting up a place, posted about the majority report, we'd have all heard about that, okay?
Guy watched Sam Cedar so much.
Why did Gavin?
Why do you guys appeal to mass shooters? Why do mass shooters
There's a
talk
qualitative
about Sam
difference.
Cedar being so inspirational to them?
Why did Gavin?
Why is
Weird.
Emma Vigeland inspiring mass shooters?
Dude.
Why did Gavin Long?
Why are you okay with porn being shown to children? Look, if you want to play a game of nonsense statements for political brownie points, feel free to do so. But I'll say it again.
Tim, I didn't mean to upset you.
This is exactly why Sam is not welcome on my show. But it's not something that I just one day was like, you know what? No, it's because I had serious conversations with networks and other high-profile individuals, and I love.
Can you name the high-profile individuals?
That's their business. But I absolutely love how the response is, they're scared of Sam. It's like, no, they despise him. He's a bad faith actor who does exactly what you just did. We're having a conversation about scientific research, data, my position on what I like about DeSantis, and then you go, your show's for neo-Nazis. It's like, okay, dude, are you stupid?
I'm just stating facts.
Have you ever?
Okay, this is like lowbrow. This is why you guys have 170 Dave Rubin videos. Do you think the average person cares about Dave Rubin?
No, I'm
No,
just
but
trying
you
to
guys
combat
get
it.
clicks by doing it.
It's
Hey,
fun.
how about you guys run a video about how Tim Pool got into an argument with a pro-lifer about how he's in favor of pro-choice policy? You didn't run that, did you? Because you guys are grifters. This is what you do. I can invite you on for a real conversation, and what do? Your show's for neo-Nazis. This is why you guys don't get invited places, because you're not having real conversations.
I don't really care about getting invited places.
Yeah, right. So go in your grifter echo chamber where you guys can play songs with bad audio and then say, whoopsie.
I'm sorry that I bet.
Whoopsie.
Audio thing really upset you.
Wait, have you ever
Well,
covered
what
the
upsets
Gavin?
me is when I talk about Ron DeSantis making fake things to trick people, and that's what you guys do. It's kind of like, yeah, how about that?
We do AI images?
When you run audio that sounds bad to make a nonsensical video where you're like, Tim Pool sounds like Nickelback. It's like what you're doing is just trying to generate rage drama. It is internet blood sports level garbage. It doesn't answer any questions about the questions of pro-life and pro-choice, progressive tax policy. It doesn't answer questions about how we're going to protect or we're going to help kids. All it does is drum up support from your base so they can hoot and holler and give you clicks. Then you complain, we can't get any advertisers. Maybe it's because you make lowbrow drama garbage.
No, I mean, the first hour of our program is the one that's free.
For
and
neo-Nazis,
that's-
you mean? The one where that mass shooter watched Majority Report? Is that what you're talking about?
The first hour of our program will usually
that guy's
have
name?
Social Security and Medicare
can't remember that
like
guy's
kind of discussions, or we'll essentially talk to an expert on, say, policy in Latin America, that kind of thing. The stuff that's behind the paywall and then gets clipped is stuff where we respond to right-wingers. We want to get into the...
He got really mad when I said that he got kicked off of Bob's Burgers.
Oh, no, that's funny.
But-
That you know he was joking, right? He was being sarcastic.
I didn't watch the clip. I just know that.
Yeah, he was
got mad.
hilarious. He first of all, the creator is one of his best friends. Sam's, like,
I don't know. Sam came to me and said he was upset that they kicked him up. They were removing his role from the show.
I think he was joking.
But used to be a TYT, and Gavin Long, who was the Baton Rouge shooter, watched, reposted, and did reactions to Young Turks videos. A lot of them were straight misinformation. There was one in particular where they were going after a cop who slammed a woman, which, by the way, the cop acted inappropriately, but they wildly speculated that it was a black woman. It turned out to be a white woman. And there was a call in the video of like, what do you do if you see a pregnant black woman being assaulted by a cop? Gavin Long said he's going to step up. You can watch these videos; they're available online. And he shot 4 cops.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't my comment.
What-
I didn't say.
about-
No, hold on. I didn't say it was your commentary, but you're saying screenshots on this guy's phone. Big problem. I got to bring it up right here. But have you ever covered at all what inspired Gavin Long?
Because
He killed 4 police officers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. That wasn't my coverage, so I don't know. I was based in
What
New
about the
York.
guy in Dallas? Remember him?
That was a different shooter.
Sam,
No, I know.
I'm sorry.
I was based in, sir. I was based in an entirely different city.
I
Right.
really didn't mean to trigger you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just curious where your standards are. Like, have you gone
Look at
after
this.
the
She's
host on the Young Turks for
clip
that one?
harvesting, clip farming. Is that what you're doing?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, your demeanor changes before the show to all of a sudden now you're going, what do you mean? I'm so sorry I triggered you. Oh, geez.
Well, I mean,
get it. You guys are going to make clips.
I'm
You
trying
guys
to
are
do-
lowbrow grifter drama garbage.
I'm trying to
You wanna
just
talk
speak
about the
in a
merits of
calming
policy?
tone, so maybe that calms you down a little bit.
Do you want to talk about policy or do you want to just...
I'm trying to talk in a calming voice. Oh God, she just keeps pressing that button. This is glorious.
insult people?
I would love to talk about policy.
So continue, Sean.
Yeah, so the if screenshots, which are of clips that weren't even him speaking, is Tim Pool inspiring the shooter, then how come you've like never done this commentary at a place you used to work at of direct inspiration? Like he saw a clip, cuts to himself saying, "I'm gonna step up because I'm the real one."
I've
Like-
never heard of this, so.
Oh,
Well,
that's
why not?
interesting that you never heard of
Well,
that.
so it happened. Why do you think it is that your former program appealed to mass shooters so much?
I cover right-wingers, and I know that right-wing terrorism in this country dwarfs any kind of left-wing terrorism by like a 9-to-1 figure.
does that do
I
with what I
might be
just asked?
underestimating. Because I cover the real threat in this country, which is right-wing terrorism.
Sure. So I'll ask again, I guess. Like, why do you think it is this mass shooter was inspired by your former program?
I would have to look into it to make a smarter
Do you feel
comment
bad
on
that he
it.
was inspired directly and admitted he was?
He's so mad.
Sure. I mean, it's not.
Do you take
It
responsibility?
wasn't even my program. I worked there, but yeah.
So you were providing material support. Wow. You
I don't know if she was
you-
there at the time.
no,
To
look.
be fair to you,
I
like,
don't think I was.
but I will say, it is interesting.
Does actual Justice Warrior not know that he's there to be like Tim's backup to gang up on Emma? I don't think he got the assignment yet.
Because the Young Turks did cover this shooting. And even though, again, reacted specifically to Young Turks videos covering the cops very poorly, propaganda inspired him to commit this violence, in my opinion.
If you want to talk about the Young
hold
Turks,
on.
you should talk to them.
I
mean,
would
yeah.
love to at some point in my life. But so he does this, but the Young Turks coverage of it called him just a sovereign citizen. So this
Yeah.
would be categorized as that right-wing terrorism,
This
even
is-
though
this-
he
this
was
is the thing, right?
inspired by a left-wing news organization,
Let's-
specifically left-wing
I'll do
figures.
a semi segue, and I'll talk about what irks me is like the Burisma scandal, for instance. Any kind of reasonable assessment over the story pre Hunter Biden anything is pretty shocking, but it's not something you see in any of these quote unquote left wing media sources for like no reason. I think the best example is it is so omitted from the narrative that when we had Hunter Avalon on the show, he didn't even believe that Joe Biden admitted to engaging in the quid pro quo, and so I played the video for him. So what's troublesome is.
What are you talking about?
He's talking about the fire the
Yeah,
prosecutor.
none of this. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, Tim? This is the biggest pivot I've ever seen in my life.
Clip from Joe Biden, specifically. If you
But I'm
remember
not
that.
surprised you're not familiar with it, right? It doesn't exist in the
I
left's
mean,
echo chamber.
Well, it's funny. You call it the leftist echo chamber. I mean, I am a consumer of leftist news sources, but also I read right-wing ones just to check in on it. Centrist news organizations. I think this is a very, very specific echo chamber that I can't speak to. The Burisma thing, I look, I'm not going to defend Joe Biden. I mean, I'm a leftist. I'm to the left of Joe Biden. But this story, I mean, it's pretty much a nothing burger. The Durham investigation essentially had,
we're
or
not
not the
talking about
Durham, sorry, I misspoke. The investigation being done in the House right now is like looking into the whistleblower who's suspiciously gone missing, and they have an FBI tip for 17 different calls between Hunter Biden and this oligarch.
That's weird.
It's all completely gobbledygook made up. But at the same time,
But why are you defending Joe Biden like that?
no,
Like, why not just say, yeah, sure.
well,
screw that guy.
I'd love to criticize him on things that I think are actually real, like the fact that he's continued Trump's border policy and ramped it up, honestly, with Title 42, where
Wouldn't
he
you
did,
rather have-
Doing so well.
sunset that
There.
because it was
If-
a part of the emergency and during
if
COVID.
Trump-
But he's largely continued militarism around the border.
If
Other
Trump
things
is
like
the
that.
nominee, do you think he'll win?
No, I
No.
don't, but I think he will be the nominee.
So wouldn't you rather have, say, Bernie Sanders as the candidate for the Democrats?
Of course.
So isn't it in your interest then to say, by all means, investigate Joe Biden? If he's corrupt, get rid of him.
Well, I don't think, sure, you can do an investigation. Everything that's come out so far seems like it's bullshit, but I would rather criticize him on things I find more substantive.
Hey, BCC
so
TV.
I can tell you definitively, factually, it's not
Hey,
not
old
BS.
pack.
I mean, certainly
Hello,
there are
Snuggle
political
Kitten.
elements of it, but I mean, Joe Biden. This is what I was talking about with Hunter Avalon. Joe Biden's literally on camera saying that he threatened to withhold congressionally approved loan guarantees unless they fired Victor Shokin. Victor Shokin signed a sworn affidavit saying this was intentionally to protect Burisma from
No, this was
investigations.
stated U.S. policy to fire Shokin. This was not a quid pro quo outside of
Joe
the United
Biden
States.
said, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting the loan guarantees. That is illegal.
Okay.
That the vice president does not have the authority to withhold loan guarantees from a foreign nation that have been approved by Congress.
It was not because they were investigating Burisma. It was because of European policy.
Well,
from-
intent is
from-
immaterial.
But you're claiming it's a quid pro quo.
It is a quid pro quo for Joe Biden to literally say on camera, which he did, fire the prosecutor or you're not getting the loans.
Though. No, it's not.
It's actually
This is weird.
No,
defending him. I mean, it is.
He might. So the president might have the discretion to not do that, and Obama might have said,
Well, they impeached Trump for the same thing.
"You represent me in that regard." So it's illegal for him to do that for the investigation. But like, you guys are off into like a different point. The point you were making originally was that Hunter had never seen this clip, but you've seen the clip that they're referencing, right? Because he was making an echo chamber.
I've
point.
read about it, but I read.
Do you know
that's very interesting because that clip was plastered all over.
No,
are you familiar with Gazprom?
I mostly my workflow is I read like 50 pages of news before the show every day.
Look, honest question. Like, are you familiar with Gazprom?
No.
Are you familiar with the Qatar-Turkey pipeline?
The
Qatar-Turkey pipeline.
Oh yeah.
You are.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Okay. Are you familiar with like U.S. Intelligence policy 2009 Syria and how this relates to Gazprom and Burisma and all this stuff?
Vaguely.
I don't understand how, if you have an understanding of that, you would just be like, all of that's true, but the Joe Biden stuff's not true, because it doesn't make any sense as to why you would defend Joe Biden in that way.
I just think the investigation's largely BS. I'm not defending Joe Biden.
No, but I mean,
look
like,
into the investigation. If they want to do some sort of
know.
special counsel investigation outside of the political process, where it's not a Republican witch hunt, I'm all for that.
But here's what I'm trying to understand. You think that the quid pro quo is not illegal. You think
it's not.
That
it was stated European policy by the government.
you,
And you're connecting it and saying it's a quid pro quo based on a variety of different assumptions that have not been able to be proven yet in the midst of the investigation.
Well, this I can't understand, right? When Donald Trump called Ukraine, it was called a quid pro quo, whether it was U.S. policy or not. It was. The president sets the policy. So if the president calls Ukraine and says, I got this video of Joe Biden, I'd like someone to look into it, he's impeached under a quid pro quo, right? Whether it is or isn't.
Because he was withholding aid to Ukraine.
Hey, just like Joe Biden tried to do, right?
This was stated U.S. policy at the time.
And the president sets U.S. policy, right?
But if it's quid pro quo, what was he getting in return?
Joe Biden?
Yes.
He said fire the prosecutor. The prosecutor had 12
presumably it would be the prosecutor that was investigating Burisma, but I do
What was Biden getting in return?
But right, okay, so I'll tell you. First, the Viktor Shokin had about a dozen plus open investigations into Mykola Zlochevsky, the founder of Burisma, and I believe into Burisma as an ancillary factor.
But I just want to say real quick, impeachment doesn't necessarily...
And Shokin was not investigating Burisma.
He was.
But
he was not.
Yep. Okay, dude, look, if you don't know about this, just don't say no.
Dude.
I can tell you definitively, he was. It was a huge issue. There were a dozen plus investigations open into Mykola Zlochevsky.
You're misrepresenting it.
Zlochevsky fled the country. Zlochevsky fled Ukraine amid these investigations. Upon Shokin's firing, returned to Ukraine. After Donald Trump then says, I want this looked into, Zlochevsky flees again.
Okay, but
It's
what was the
weird to me
quid
that
pro
you're defending
quo?
this.
What was Biden getting in return?
They would stop investigating Burisma, which is where his son worked.
That's not it. The quid pro quo is fire the prosecutor or I will withhold aid. Okay? You can say it was...
That's not proven.
But she's asking... No, he did say that. But she's saying it's not proven that he did that for personal gain. She's saying,
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Where's
That's
the
not- that's not
benefit
the
for
question.
Biden?
Yes, but that's not illegal.
Can I clarify a legal point real
Trump's
quick?
impeachment was not illegal either because what was his intent?
That's the exact point I want to clarify. Impeachment is not actually a real legitimate criminal process. It is a political process.
I understand that.
So like him being impeached for this like doesn't actually say anything to the legality.
Trump was not following United States policy. Biden
He
was.
sets the policy. He's the president.
Congress does.
No, they
We
don't.
have separations of powers
The
in this
president
country.
sets policy
Not
for the executive branch. Congress isn't the one making calls to foreign
not
diplomats.
for aid.
No,
Congress-
they allocate the aid, but he's able to pull it under certain circumstances.
It's not just that. Foreign policy is set by the president. Wars are declared by
a
Congress.
huge portion of it.
Right. Okay, nothing's absolute.
Yeah.
But the idea that we would elect a president to negotiate on our interests when it comes to the issues of military, and then we would be like, but in this one instance, he doesn't have the authority. What do you mean? He's the one who sets the policy.
No, he has the
It was
authority.
the argument is that Joe Biden wasn't engaging in a quid pro quo because it was a policy of our administration. Yeah, Obama had a policy.
A quid pro quo is when you get something personally in return.
So something for something is what it means.
Right, but the nature of the investigation that they're looking into is they're trying to say that there was a bribe via Hunter Biden, and there has been
Joe
no...
and Hunter. They say both of them.
Right, but there has been no actual evidence on that front.
Well, I'm not super concerned about what they may be investigating currently. Right now, I'm talking about it is the whole point of this was I can't believe we're even arguing it right now.
But
I don't understand why you, someone who has every reason to oppose Joe Biden, are like he said it on camera, but you know what? It's fine. I don't get it. Like, just be like, yeah, sure, fine, I guess.
But she's making a very specific point that for it to be a quid pro quo, you have to explain how Biden
Quid
benefited
pro
from
quo.
this. So, like, it's not necessarily that she's disagreeing with what you're saying, although she's saying it's part of policy, but she's saying you have to actually, to complete this, like, basically you're 2/3 of the way there, that final third is
my
how
point
he
is,
benefited.
Biden was
I'm
not
not
in
talking about
opposition to
personal
congressional
benefits.
policy,
But that's what
and
she's
Trump
talking
was.
about. I just
I'm
wanted to make
talking
that
about
clear.
Trump
Joe
was,
Biden
that's the
threatening
difference.
to withhold loan guarantees goes against, it's not legal.
But you're talking past each other because she's saying, like, there's a reason for that, and it's not corrupt related.
But that has nothing to do with what I'm saying, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. I'm just clarifying where you guys are miscommunicating.
Here, this
vice
is where
president-
this is where I'll say I have differences with Joe Biden.
Dude.
First of all, I can't even like understand why he hasn't or didn't, when he had a House and a Senate that was Democratic, push for any kind of single payer or socialized healthcare. I wish that was happening. He's certainly to the right of me on the border. The fact that he broke the rail strike, that's something that I'm deeply in opposition to, and I'm happy to discuss those kinds of things with you. But like,
I don't really want to get into the Burisma thing. It came up as like an example of, I don't understand why, like, there's like a tribal need to defend Joe Biden.
it was it's not tribal. It was U.S. policy to get rid of corruption in Ukraine. Shokin was not investigating Burisma. Biden was in concert. He was continuing U.S. policy. Trump was in opposition to it. That is the difference in the
True.
hypocrisy that you're trying to highlight here.
True.
You guys are gonna go in circles on this, but
I
why
have
don't
to
you?
pull it up, but like, because we covered this a long time ago, I didn't want to do the whole Burisma thing, but my point was simply that, like, having covered this to such extent, it is confusing to me the need to defend the Bidens on this one. I just
criticized Biden in a bunch of different
but I don't understand why
ways.
you're saying there was no investigation. Like, you're just making that up.
They're in the middle of an investigation.
No.
right now.
Michael Zlochevsky had 12 to 14 open investigations, and Shokin had a dozen plus investigations into Zlochevsky and Burisma.
Okay.
But I don't know why you're like, no, that's not true. Or like, what? I don't know. It's been a couple years since we covered this. And definitely had all the articles pulled up, to be fair. But yeah, they did. Like, that's not even a question of the facts.
Okay.
The question is whether or not, like, they wanted someone else to do it.
I
guess.
feel I kind of delineated why it's different pretty
What's different?
succinctly.
Just
Trump was in violation of U.S. policy set by Congress. Biden was not. That is the difference that we're laying out here. And you have been unable to establish how Biden benefits in a quid pro quo from this in any way.
well, currently the argument is that his son was on the board of Burisma. I mean, so that was kind of obvious, as was a CIA director.
Yeah, I mean, totally.
So as a counterterrorism director of the CIA on the board of this company, and the so-called left is like, but it's fine. Like, what is going on?
No.
I don't understand how
Well,
the
here,
left
Tim,
became
Tim.
pro-war, pro-med, pro-big pharma. like government should be able to give multi-billion-dollar
so
Tim, I'm
no
against
big
government
contracts to-
corruption. The idea that these fail,
But vaccine mandates, like, I didn't fuck-
that these fail sons. What about vaccine mandates?
I said, I don't understand how the left
What?
became pro-big pharma,
It's
pro-no
not pro
bid,
big
no.
pharma. I'm pro public health.
So you're in favor of no bid,
Dude.
no liability contracts for massive multinational pharmaceuticals.
No, I was literally just said earlier in the program that I wanted the state to own it, since we gave our money to that and created life-saving vaccines with taxpayer money. It
Right. So
should-
who gets the money?
the big
like-
pharma did. It's messed up. Yeah.
Right.
We
So
should have
even-
socialized healthcare in this country and be
even-
manufacturing it ourselves.
Even if the patents were released to the public, they still gave the billion-dollar
Totally.
production contracts
But that's
to
the
big pharma.
society. But that is what we live in, unfortunately, right
I'm
now. And we
completely
were in the
opposed to
middle of
that.
a global pandemic, and we needed vaccines immediately.
That's
it-
not left.
No, it is. It certainly is. I believe that in the immediate, that is not.
Hyper-centralized,
Excuse me.
hyper-centralized funding of massive multinational pharmaceuticals is not leftist.
Well, what would be the alternative, Tim, in the midst of a global pandemic?
Decentralized bid contracts with liability.
I literally just said earlier in the program that I was in favor and much closer. First, also, I'm surprised you're saying this, because didn't you say that you were more close to Trump on vaccine policy? This is Trump's vaccine policy.
No, you were talking about that.
Okay, I am closer to him than that.
Yeah.
On that. I believe that when we
I said
did
something like, "Oh, yeah."
give investment into these companies, yes, they were going to make some sort of windfall, but then the vaccines themselves should be owned by the public, since it was our money that was given into it. That's the practical realities of what we have to deal with today in a for-profit healthcare system. I'm hoping that we transition away from that and that we have socialized healthcare, so none of the things that you're talking about have to happen anymore.
I don't think you need to give no bid, no liability contracts to massive pharmaceuticals to do what needed to be done. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's just that the government is crooked.
So you're
and
closer
paying
to
off-
DeSantis on vaccine policy.
Probably neither. I don't know how
Interesting.
as applies to what we're talking about. I'm saying,
So what's your alternative to producing the vaccine in the rapid way that the Operation Warp Speed did?
well, there are a lot of questions about
It
whether
is-
or not.
Well, I don't really know how
worked
to
in any
answer that.
capacity, right?
I
No,
gotta
there's
stall for
not.
time.
What do you
The
mean?
vaccines were highly effective
What does that mean?
originally at preventing death. Then, of course, there were different variants and disease continued to
No,
spread.
I'm saying like what
but
what
vaccines
was
were
the
immensely
initial...
effective in preventing death, the mRNA vaccines.
Right.
Not
So
the
what
Johnson
I mean more
Johnson
so
one.
is like the Operation Warp Speed was predicated upon preventing the spread, which it didn't do. Right.
Sorry?
Yeah, Operation Warp Speed was predicated upon like.
Yes, it did. It helped prevent the spread.
It didn't.
Yes, it did.
It
But,
didn't.
well, I mean, part of the issue was that in red states there was no ability to actually
may have prevented death, but I think like wasn't it like
Hold on.
oh yeah
there was
it
no
doesn't actually stop
mass
spread?
mandates were immediately done away with in red states. They basically had no social distancing. That was much more of an effect, had much more of an effect on death in this country than like the inefficacy of vaccines. This has been borne out by data after data after data set.
Well,
and then we have new variations of the vaccines, which have also helped.
Yeah, nothing was going to reduce the spread that much. It was like it was already
But that
one
was
of the
the-
most
It helped with
contagious viruses,
yes.
and then it mutated to become
Dude.
more
Well-
contagious.
Well, it
Dude.
helped with both transmissions and severity. That's a fact. The mRNA vaccines did.
But I don't want to deviate too much. We're talking about
well, now
And it
let's
let's not
slowed
talk
spread,
about that.
particularly with the
big
wild type.
pharmaceuticals. So my issue would be like instead of having like 3 big companies, I think it was like 4 big companies, just do it. Would be to have it decentralized amongst many different producers who are not centralized. And that can be done. We just have to do it.
Talking like a prize, like, hey, if you develop this vaccine, whoever does it first, then you get the windfall.
Or even like a mandated coordination of production, but not have one company just be like, we're going to give $10 billion to company X. That's insane.
Didn't one of these companies refuse the money up front for fear of future ownership of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, was that Moderna or something
I
like
don't
that?
remember which one.
I don't know. Anyway, my point was, there's that meme that Elon Musk made where like the left moves further and further left. I think that the left has actually gone right in a weird way.
How is preventing death in a global pandemic?
Well,
right
like, are you in favor of the war in Ukraine?
What-
It wouldn't be-
I'll rephrase. Do you believe the U.S. should be involved in providing material support to the Ukrainians?
I have been in favor of it. Yes, I do think that there are legitimate concerns about the continuation of doing so without brokering a peace and it becoming some sort of proxy for U.S. like war criminals within the United States. But in terms of like the Russian invasion, I am
Gen Knight,
completely opposed
Tim
and
Pool
in
is
support of the
very
Ukrainian people.
insufferable. Also,
yeah,
welcome.
it's more a question of like, should we have given, what are we at, like 100 and 200 billion?
How am I doing this morning? I am toasted. I'm very toasty. Let's put it that way. Subs to surprise chat. Who could say?
I don't know, because there's guarantees which have not been delivered, and it's in terms of weapons. So I don't know what's actually been delivered.
This is what I don't understand. Like, people I used to know from back during Occupy are like flying Ukrainian flags and being like, we got to support this. Hassan Piker criticized me for saying we shouldn't be involved. And
Yeah.
I'm
He
like,
also said the invasion wasn't going to happen for sure, like 100%.
Sure,
It's gonna
Shalom,
happen
it's
the
the
next
only
day.
but my
way.
position
His
has
suffering
always
is what
been
makes it bearable.
99% non-intervention. Like, I've not changed at all in that regard.
Okay.
And the left has become pro-intervention, moving
But we're
them
not.
right.
But Ukraine is on the defense. They were invaded. This is not the
You
same
want to talk
thing.
about Kuwait and Iraq and
You
all
want
of
to
it?
talk about that? I'm in
Well, no,
favor.
I mean, look,
we were the equivalent of
let's talk
Russia
about-
in the case of Iraq. We invaded under completely false pretenses. We invaded
Yeah,
under
what
illegal
I'm
pretenses.
saying is, like, this
Yeah.
and
just
we
proves
killed
my
and
point.
decimated that country. Hundreds of thousands dead because of the
If the
U.S.
left
empire.
position was only opposed to war because of the circumstances of the war, then I would say the left is more pro-war and to the right of me on war.
That's
What?
I'm completely anti-war, but the war happened because Russia invaded,
What?
and now Ukraine is trying to defend
So let's-
itself.
Right. So you're anti-war, you oppose war,
Yes.
but you're to the right of me when it comes to Ukraine.
I don't think so.
Do you believe that the U.S. should be supplying and aiding the Ukrainians?
I do believe so because
Right, who
they're
gets that
defending
money?
themselves.
Who gets that money?
The military.
But
they're